Good morning, Thunder fans. The Oklahoma City Thunder defeated the Detroit Pistons by a score of 119 to 103. And look, this is just another great win. I mean, it's another massive win. And let's just start with it. The Thunder completed the greatest campaign against the Eastern Conference of all time, uh, going 29-1 against the conference, the best record in NBA history against the interconference record, which is something you don't really think about, and you can't really, I don't know, anticipate being a record until the very end. But my goodness, this is just a massive win for the Thunder, a massive win historically. I think they did it about as well as anyone can do it. The only loss was to the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road, which was a relatively close game until the end. And that's one of the better teams in NBA history right now, if you look at that as well, if you look at, net rating, all of that. So pretty shocking result, and, just another thing to highlight when you talk about this team and history as we wrap this regular season up. Just simply remarkable. 11 straight wins for the Thunder. Another great run there. They're nearing the record they set this year for themselves, I believe, which was 15. And they tied the 72 Lakers for double digit wins. And by the way, yeah, that is the 72 Lakers, not the 96 Bulls that had the double digit win record. The Thunder are surely going to capture that record as a whole. They still have the Jazz and Pelicans later on in the schedule, so that shouldn't be a problem. But let's talk about this game itself. So the Detroit Pistons, obviously not at full strength. No Cade Cunningham in this game, and several players out due to that brawl. I don't know if I would call that a proper brawl. It's a brawl. I wouldn't. It's not enough to be like a kerfuffle or like a scrap. It was more than that. That felt like a brawl. The brawl in Minnesota. So missing a couple guys due to that. But I got to give it up to the Pistons. That was a pretty hard fought performance. Tim Hardaway Jr. in that first half was excellent. Kind of shades of any one of those 2023, 24 Mavericks, I guess, could just go off against you on a single night. But THJ, excellent in that first half. Bit of a menace. Shea was awesome in that first quarter. Kind of tapered off a little bit. And I will say, the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander experience, I've said it before, I'll say it again. When you look down and you're like, yeah, it wasn't the best Shea game, and he had 33 points, that's just Shea for you. Not the most efficient game, 10 for 26, but I felt like he was getting to his spots. The shots just weren't going down. And this was just a really balanced performance, though, for the Thunder. The Pistons stuck around in this one in the first half. I wouldn't say they made it interesting. The game was always kind of at about like a 10 point, arm's length. But the Thunder just completely closed the door on them at the end, going on a 12-0 run to end the ball game. Which, I mean, that's how the Thunder works. They have the most amount of, I believe, 10-0 runs in the NBA this season by a substantial margin. They avalanche on you, and they're really, really hard to stop when they need to stop you. They could just pile on. And I think a lot of that's because the offense is very balanced. And you can, I don't want to be a podcast that just looks at the box score, but you can really see it in the starting five who, that in its own was interesting. And I'll get into that later. But, you had balanced scoring from your big three. Obviously, Shea taking the lead with 33, but J-Dub and Chet both putting in great scoring efforts as well. 23 for Dub, 22 for Chet Holmgren, who, as we noted last time out, didn't have the best game against the Chicago Bulls. He followed up with a great performance. He was rebounding, he was scoring. 6 block shots is just crazy. Like, it was a Chet Holmgren performance where you're like, oh yeah, this guy can be a superstar. If you forgot about that while he was sitting out because of injury, it's one of those very fresh reminders of what this guy can be. And I like that he scored. He did all of his scoring from inside the arc. 0 for 5 from 3, which is a little bit, I don't want to say alarming, but atypical of a good Chet scoring game. He's been pretty good at those little spot up shots, but he definitely went to town, elsewhere, which I think is very appreciated, very good. J-Dub, just a great balance game from him as well. That he's kind of rounding into form of that second scoring option that you really need to see, when the playoffs come. I feel like I mentioned that before, and I don't want to sound like a broken clock there, but another great performance from him there. And just overall, just excellent effort out of the team. Case and Wallace great defensively as well. Very interesting that Hartenstein came off the bench. I kind of thought he was. I initially, so I was in the arena for this one. I thought he was like resting or hurt, and then you look down. Nope, he's suited up. Maybe just as a precaution. I don't know. And then he comes in for a shift with Dylan Jones and Kenrich Williams, and you're like, oh, I guess we're playing Hartenstein. Let's go, Mark. You kind of mixing it up a bit. And he was. I thought he was not as he wasn't as effective as he was last game. I think it's like him and Chet kind of Freaky Friday'd their games here because he had a bit of not a phenomenal game, not a bad game, scoring wise, like 5 points, six assists for a center is awesome, and then 8 rebounds. So, pretty balanced, but pretty good, I would say, off the bench. But yeah, no, I think to me, just another great performance from the Thunder. Another note I have to bring up on Chet. My buddy Andrew, who has at the game with, referred to Chet as having the Gobert effect, where he has this, like, nobody wants to go inside because you're afraid he's going to send that thing into the third row. And that was very, very evident there. And obviously, if you have that going forward with Chet, that's just a huge, huge addition as well. So, what next? The Oklahoma City Thunder obviously have everything wrapped up, except for, best record for the magic number for the Maurice Podoloff Trophy, everyone. I know everyone's on pins and needles wondering who captures the Maurice Podoloff Trophy for best regular season record, an award I forgot existed until a couple days ago. The Thunder's magic number for that's 4. So any combination of 4 Thunder wins or 4 Cavs losses means the Thunder gets the best record, and therefore home field or home court advantage in the NBA Finals if they reach that. But there's a bigger chase at hand, and the noise is kind of starting to grow a little bit. I think we've all kind of dismissed it a bit. We dismissed it on the main pod with Jameson. 70 wins is in reach. It might have sounded a little crazy at 10, but with 6 games to go, they have the chance to be the 3rd team in NBA history to reach that 70-win mark, which would be baffling, especially given the fact that this team has had as many injuries as they've had, with truly marquee players out for as long as they've had. To reach that level of the 96 Bulls, the 16 Warriors, it boggles the mind. Will they get it is another question. Next game up against the Houston Rockets. If you ask me, that's the biggest hurdle. Well, there are 3 big hurdles because you got the Lakers coming to town. But to me, that road game in Houston is going to be a tough one to win. That's a team that does not like Oklahoma City. If you recall, the last time the Thunder played the Rockets in Houston, it ended tight game. Fred VanVleet kind of pulled him out of a tough spot, hit some big shots, and the Rockets celebrated by stomping on a phone on Instagram Live with Not Like Us in the background. So a little excited for a game they won on December, I believe, literally December 1st. But that's a team that always gets up to play OKC, especially at home. I don't know if I'd call it a rivalry yet, but I don't think the two franchises like each other very much. So if there was a game to think that the Thunder are going to lose, I would say that one. And then the pair of Lakers games, I think, will be interesting as well. The Lakers still scrapping to get playoff standings, positioning, all of that stuff. So I'm intrigued to see how that works. But if you get past that game in Houston and those two against LA and Oklahoma City, I think you have the 70. I don't care who you roll out against the Jazz and the Pelicans. It's good. It'll be J. Will triple doubles the rest of the way, because to me, I feel like at that point the hard work's done. But yeah, the race to 70 is going to ramp up. It's going to be intense. Or maybe it won't be. Maybe the team has frequently said they do not care about the records, about these substantial things that we all talk about, and they're very narrow-minded. They got the blinders on. They're focused on the mission, which is to win a championship. Playoffs, they're coming. So that'll be fun. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm intrigued to see who they play, because the Memphis Grizzlies are now in the mix. Jameson and I will discuss this further on a longer podcast. But until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. We'll be back after the Thunder Rockets game to discuss that game and maybe discuss the total affairs of the Thunder as a whole a little bit more. TBD on that one. But until then, thank you all so much for listening and watching. Thank you to my producer, Jacqueline Ferris, as always, for keeping me right, making sure everything sounds good, looks good. And if you like the show, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or YouTube, and tell a friend. Tell a friend, because that's the most important thing. Let people know about us. So until then, This has been More Than Thunder. We'll see you next time. Thunder up, everybody.